What's up, guys? Welcome back to Disc Golf Weekly, and this week I've got a really cool video for you guys. I've never done anything like this, so I'm super excited to share it with you guys, and I want to know how you like it. What this week's video is going to be is it's going to be a course review of a local course up by my house called Randall Oaks. Some of you have probably played it before, so you already kind of know what the course is like and stuff like that. But I'm going to kind of break it down and go hole by hole and say what kind of shot I throw, what kind of shot I see a lot of people throwing, what seems to be the best shot, stuff like that. So definitely leave a comment below telling me what you like, what you think I could do better, stuff like that. So that's all I wanted to say right now. I'm going to throw you over to the video, so I hope you guys like it. Alright guys, so here's what hole 1 looks like standing from the tee pad. The basket is that little red bar. It's behind that tree right there. You can't really see it. And as you can see in the bottom left corner, I took a picture of the pole with the sign on it. It's a par 3, 265 feet, pretty straight with a little hook to the left at the end. But it's difficult because there's some kind of trees in the way and stuff like that you have to work around. And the yellow line is the shot that I see a lot of people taking. And you just kind of throw it straight and let it fade up towards the pin. And that works pretty well, but the basket is on an angle, so if you get it wrong a little bit, you could roll, and down at the bottom of that hill there's usually some water, or at least some damp mud, so you might get your shoes dirty or stuff like that. So I tend to not go that route because there's a much better likelihood of hitting a tree or rolling into that mud and stuff like that. And then the dotted blue line is the route that I like to take. And what I like to do is take a really overstable disc. What I'll throw is either one of my Firebirds, and you throw a big sky hyzer up over those trees to the right there, and then let it fade back towards the pin. There's a nice opening by the pin for that big hyzer line. So that's what I like to do. That seems to work pretty well for me. Obviously, you have to be pretty accurate with it. If you throw it wrong a little bit, you're going to get stuck in the trees. So it's a much more challenging route. It's definitely easier and safer to just kind of throw straight with something that's kind of stable, or I've seen people take a fairly overstable disc and kind of throw a flex shot straight at the pin. The big hyzer line is what seems to work for me. Maybe you guys have a different route. Leave that in the comments below if you do. Alright guys, so here we are over at hole 2, and as you can see in the bottom left corner, again I took a picture of the pole. 194 feet, par 3, sort of a soft hyzer to the left. The basket is inside that red rectangle. You can see it a lot better on this one than in hole 1. It's not guarded by any trees too bad. There are some trees surrounding it, but there's a nice opening. If you follow that big yellow hyzer line, there is a nice opening in the trees where you can, usually you can land it right next to the pin. But I have seen also people will take that blue dotted line. They'll take something that's really straight. I've seen people throw Makos and TLs and some seasoned rocks and stuff like that that don't have too much fade at the end. And if you go on that blue line, you can throw straight at the pin, but it's much more guarded by trees. It's a lot tighter that way. I like to throw the big hyzer line. That's what I see most people throwing, but there is the occasional person who will throw straight at it. Alright, so moving on to hole 3. This is probably one of my least favorite holes on this course because of that car that's parked right down there. It's not a super difficult hole. You can see the basket's in that red rectangle. It's fairly straight. Most people will take that yellow line and throw straight at it, which is what I'll do unless there's a car parked right where that one is, because then I always get worried that I'm going to hit a tree and skip into there, or if I throw something a little too hard and it kind of turns on me too much, I might hit that car or whatever. So then I'll take that blue. I'll usually forehand a Firebird on that blue line there. I have also tried using an Underworld, and you just throw that and just kind of let it turn. Both ways are pretty open. I like the yellow one better because it's much straighter. Just keep it simple. That seems to work the best for me. Unless there's cars there, then I'll take that blue line, which works just as well, but I feel more confident with the yellow. Alright, now moving on to hole 4. It's 255 feet, par 4, and as you can tell, it's fairly uphill. And on this one I have 2 yellow lines and no blue line leading to the baskets that are on top of the hill. I don't have any blue lines because there's really no main or wrong way to throw this hole. It's fairly open. There used to be a tree off to the left which made it more difficult, but they cut that tree down, so now it's a much more open hole. You can either throw it straight at the pin, which is not a bad shot, but you have to keep it kind of low because there's a branch hanging down in front of the basket there, which is kind of hard to do with keeping something low but still uphill. So I like to throw the big anhyzer route there. I don't like to forehand it. I like to just take something understable and just throw a nice anhyzer with it. That's what seems to work for me. I've seen people do a bunch of stuff, rollers and stuff like that up the hill. There's really no wrong way to play this hole. Alright, moving on to hole 5, 266 feet, par 4, pretty wide open. The basket is in that rectangle again, up on top of a hill, and then maybe 50 feet past the hill there's that fenced off area back there. And again, 2 yellow lines, no blue one. Really no wrong way to throw this hole. It's a pretty open hole. A lot of people will just kind of aim to the right of that sign with something overstable and just throw it straight and let it fade towards the pin. A lot of other people just throw straight at the pin. This isn't a very challenging hole. It's pretty easy. You just don't want to go too far and go over the fence, or you might roll down the hill and stuff like that. Alright, moving on to hole 6, probably the most challenging hole on the course. And as you can see in the bottom left there, I have a picture of the sign, and it's pretty much a 90-degree angle to the right, which is really hard for right-hand backhand throwers. You have to throw a really hard anhyzer, and the picture in the top left there is from the tee, and then the main picture that you can see is from around those trees looking at the basket. But as you can see off the tee, most people will either forehand something or throw something understable on a really hard anhyzer and get it around those trees and kind of let it fade towards the pin. I do know a couple people who will throw either a tomahawk or a thumber, and they'll go straight up and over the trees there, which is a nice route if you're good at it, but if you mess it up just a little bit, the trees off to the right there are pretty thick, and then there's a house on the other side, so you don't want to get your disc stuck in there. But once you get around those trees, it's pretty open. There's a little peninsula of trees kind of sticking out to the right there, so you can't throw a big hyzer at the basket. You have to throw kind of straight once you get around the trees. And then the road is probably another 50 feet past the basket, so you don't have to worry about that too much, but it's kind of always in the back of your mind. And now on to hole 7. It's a par 5, 422 feet, I believe, something along those lines. But it's completely wide open. It looks, in the picture, it looks pretty flat, but it is at a slight uphill angle. The basket is in that red rectangle again. And basically all you're trying to do on this hole is just throw it far. There's no proper or improper way to do it. Just throw, whatever your driver is, and whatever you can throw 420 feet, that's what you're going to want to pull out and throw on this hole. There's no other holes that would get in your way here, so you can throw, big S curves, anything. Anything is an option on this hole. Alright, now moving on to hole 8, 325 feet, par 4. What I'd like to do, you can see the basket there. It's in that rectangle, the red one. And it's on a slight downhill slope, but right after the basket it gets a little bit steeper. And then the left-hand side there, those trees are guarding a really steep downhill. So I like to take that big yellow hyzer line. It keeps me away from the hill. Usually I'm not going to roll down the hill past the basket if I don't throw it too far, obviously. But there are people that will take something with not much fade on it, and they'll throw straight at it, which is not a bad shot, but if you throw it just a little bit too far, or there's just a wrong gust of wind or whatever, you're almost guaranteed to go down the hill. And the trees that are guarding the hill, they're kind of low hanging, so if you release it a little bit wrong, you might hit one of those, and then now you're only 20 feet down the fairway. So I like to just throw a big hyzer line. Works pretty well. It's pretty open. Never really gets me into any trouble. onto hole 9, 375 feet par 4. And if you see down on the pole there in the bottom left, there used to be some trees right in front of the basket. The basket's in that red rectangle up on top of a hill, still on an angle though. And there used to be some trees right in front of it, which made this hole a lot more difficult. But they took those down, so now it's a pretty open, you know, just throw a 375-foot hyzer. If you go too far uphill, that's the fairway for hole 8. This is just kind of coming back parallel to it a little bit. So it's a pretty open hole. You just, you know, a big hyzer line and you're pretty safe. And finally, hole 10, 210 feet par 3. And now this one you can see the basket's in that rectangle again. The yellow line, what I like to do is just take an understable putter and just kind of throw it flat and just let it turn towards the basket, because the tree right in front and to the right of the basket there, it's really hard to get a disc to hyzer through that and miss the other trees on the right hand side. I have seen people do it well, but it's much more difficult. It's a lot more open if you just throw something slightly understable. So that's what I like to do. It's not a very long hole. It's slightly downhill from the tee pad. The tee pad's kind of elevated, so it's a fairly easy hole. There's some thick grass and stuff off to the left there, but it's usually pretty easy to find your disc there. You're not going to go in there too often. So that was Randall Oaks, one of my local courses. I play there really often, so I hope you guys like it. It's not a very challenging course, you know, but it's close to my house. It's fun to just go hang out with some friends and play. I hope you guys liked it. If I was doing something you didn't like, or if there's something you think I could improve on, please leave that in the comments below. Let me know. I'm always trying to improve and make better videos for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you next week. Peace.